Okay, hi everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of Asura's Bride. And today we have Aislene and Teri and 𝗏𝗲. And thank you so much for coming. And let's introduce ourselves. And we have a new host who has never been on the podcast before, so that's exciting. Do you want to start us off?
Hi, I'm Teri. Yeah, I'm Teri. I am a medical librarian from Connecticut. This is my first time, and my face is flushed because I actually did a shot of alcohol before I started because I was nervous. I'm an introvert, so I was like, I got to do something.
You're in good company. Tora did the same thing, so.
I know, yeah, that's courage. So I write on AO3 under LadyLibris, and yeah, these are my first fanfics I've ever written. I've been doing over the pandemic to try to stay sane. So I'm so excited to be here. I loved reading everyone's analysis and stuff and watching Tiger Pops. So this is very cool for me to be here. So thank you for having me.
Sure, thanks for coming on. I love Teri/LadyLibris' analyses on Patreon. So I'm so excited that she came on because she writes the best stuff.
Oh, thank you. This is tea, actually, yeah.
Good. Well, anything can be there. We wouldn't know.
I'm Aislene. I've been on the podcast a few times. I host the Feminist Critique Twitch channel with my best friend, where we discuss about politics and atheist Bible study and a few other things. And then I also started the Facebook group, and I live in Nova Scotia.
I'm Molly. I've also been on the podcast before. I live in New Hampshire. I work in healthcare, and I'm a nerd since birth, and really into comics, manga, anime, you name it, lifelong. Plus just regular literature reading, all that stuff.
Awesome.
And excited to be here.
Yes, and we're super excited to do Asura's Bride. So let's get into it. We divided it up into 4 parts, and Molly, you're starting us off. So let's dive in.
All right. So the chapter begins with some sound effects of, it should sound, I don't know if that's rain or wind through the trees. And then you hear Ulan say, "Listen up." And then the next panel, I love, it's just a close-up of his mouth. And he says, "I've had enough blood on my hands for the day, and I don't need the blood of another 40 on it." So it's just establishing right there what kind of a mood he's in.
And his confidence. He's just like, yeah. He doesn't even doubt that he can kill 40 people single-handedly.
Definitely confident.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next panel, he says, "So I'll give you 5 counts to run and hide. How's that sound?" And he's on his horse, and there's, the bandits, the thugs sort of surrounding him.
Yeah, when I saw this, I love the fog, honestly. I love the fog in the trees and the fog on the ground and the snow. Mm-hmm. And one thing that popped in my head was like death comes on a pale horse, right? 4 horsemen. Yeah. The horse isn't pale, but it's like surrounded by the fog and the snow. So even though he's all black and his horse is black, he's wearing black, his hair is black. He's surrounded by like death, but it comes on a pale horse.
Yeah, the setting is great.
Yeah, the fog is amazing.
It's very eerie.
Yeah.
And
so I love the next panel, the bravado of these guys. This guy with this bald guy with a beard is, "Shut your trap, pretty boy, or we'll sell your head to the northern bandits or barbarians, as an ornament." And then he says, "Kill the horse and then finish him off."
How dare.
So,
yeah.
Right. And it's interesting. First of all, I'm glad they recognize that he's pretty, like it's not just us.
Yeah.
And
I also like too, I don't think we haven't seen his full face yet. So it's just in those close-ups of his mouth and then just sort of away on the horse. So the next panel is just another close-up. But I love what he says, "You little shit."
He grits his teeth.
I think that Lily is like hiding his face on purpose because, you know, it's more of a dramatic effect if, you know, it's being hidden and we just get glimpses. So it's like tantalizing little excerpts. And I think let's give Una a little bit of credit. I think that he wanted to give them a chance to run away, not just because he himself is tired and he's like, okay, I don't want to do anything, but you know, maybe he's, you know, he has some moral bits in him. He's like, let me see if I can preserve life and give them a chance to live. So.
Right. So he's been threatened. So he's going to draw his sword, which he does over the next panel and a half. And then you see him flashing Shing, the sound effect. And basically, I mean, to me, it looks like he just cut the guy's head off.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Kind of hard to tell, but that's what it looks like to me.
Oh, it's straight up. It's very violent because it's even got the blood dripping.
He already has
She's
blood.
got to be really powerful to do.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've never tried it, Molly. I don't know.
I know.
Right? Red. You have to have a good sword arm to chop off somebody's head.
But there's also like an aesthetic there, right? Of like, you know, blood on fresh snow, right?
Yeah. I totally wrote that, and I have like a total nerdy Google Doc. And what did I write? I said, well, first I wrote, thread in Milan's horse means he'll take your head, ha ha ha. Because I was digging around looking at color symbolism. This is the level of nerd I am. So in Eastern culture, white is death. The color white represents death. So the white snow, the dead men, the blood, the bodies, the whole 9 yards. It's all in there, and it's amazing.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm Jewish, so in my culture, nerd is like the top thing you can be. I never understood why nerd was like bad. So anyway, thank you for being nerdy. Nerdiness is the best.
Yeah, I have like color red, color white, color black, color yellow. Here's what they mean.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
That's great. Yeah, he's capable. He's just as capable as he said he was, or implied he was.
Absolutely.
Like, because the next panel, right, is him staring at the two guys who survived this, right? And they're on hands and knees in front of him, and they're like, "We are not worthy." And they're like, "Please spare our lives, great Lord. We are the weakest in the gang. We will do you no harm." And like in the back is just like bodies with blood all over the place. Like it was a bloodbath.
And again, like all the snow, all the fog, you know, in juxtaposition with all the death too.
Oh yeah, it's very it shows that this guy is super dangerous, like even though he's the hero.
Yeah, he didn't even mess up his hair. And how many guys did he kill? And his hair still looks flippin' fabulous.
I know.
Oh my God. That to be, I mean, like, you know, it's an aesthetic thing and it's there as fan service, but like as a person with long hair, I would never, I think I discussed this last time, never do anything practical with your hair out. And yes, he's been apparently, right, we learn later, awake for 5 days. Like there's no way his hair is still straight and luscious and silky after 5 days of not showering and battling. That thing is filled with blood.
It should be like matted and like, you know,
Yeah.
But you know, aesthetic.
He like flies around him. He should smell like real bad and just
oh my God.
But he was hot.
Wait, we should insert an ad for deodorant here.
Yeah, deodorant ad.
Yeah.
Body spray.
No scent for 5 days. Protects you even in the darkest of battles. So you can cuddle with your girl and not turn her off.
Honestly, when he opens that up, she should have fainted from the smell.
Yeah, it's like, oh God, it smells like copper. And what else does that smell? Sweat.
Guts.
Copper and sweat.
Guts.
Well, now that we've sufficiently provided realism here.
Go back to the fantasy.
So he's like, why should I? You and your gang should have accepted my leniency when I gave you the chance to, don't you think? And of course, it's like, listen, it was the other dudes that you just killed that, you know, like be a little bit nice here. Like these guys were just in the back going, God damn. Right.
Okay,
But
and like the whole phallic symbolism here, what
Oh,
he's stroking.
oh yeah,
Oh.
he's
And
stroking.
guys that just joined the club today.
So he's stroking, and then he's got the flower on his neck, like very close to what he's stroking. And I'm like, that is so sexy. That is just all sexual symbolism right there.
Mhm.
Like,
Oh yeah, like he's like almost like pricking his finger with the
Yeah.
sword, like, you know, almost monodically. Oh, that's, I said that wrong, but you know, he's just like, yeah, I'm about to kill you probably. I don't know.
Feeling cute, might kill you later.
Yeah.
looking hot. First time we see his face, and he's got a phallic symbol in front of it.
Mhm.
So I did not see it as a phallic symbol,
Pretty
but that's
much.
probably because I'm a prude. I did see it as like a sign of strength, where he intimidation, where he says, you know, like
Phallic.
he's treating this weapon of death so casually, where he's just stroking it like it's a toy, and you know, this is something that's how in control of it he is, and that's how meaningless it is to him, or that's at least what he wants to portray to these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so true. There's like, that's the depth of the writing though, and the artistry, is that you can pull the different symbolism and it all makes sense and it all ties together. So yeah, there's phallic and strength and fallacy and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, all of that.
So actually, I want to go back to the one panel because, you know, with the panel with all the bodies lying on the floor. So he had to have killed some of them with their own sword, because he has one sword on him, and then there's another guy with a sword sticking out of his chest.
Yeah.
Like he killed him with his own sword. That's
And there's another sword too lying across the bottom.
Oh yeah.
so I mean, that's like just poetic, not, I don't know, poetic justice, because I don't know that I would call these people deserving necessarily. I'm not going to get into that. Like, they're bandits. That's not so great, but deserve to be killed. I don't know. But in any case, they were killed by their own weapons, which is tragic, sad, you know, poetic justice, some kind of thing like that.
Well, then the red from the blood too, when I'm looking at it, like the red from the blood, but also the red in his clothing, like it all ties together. Like he brought the death to them, the color red ties him to them to him, all of it. Like the only color he has in his clothes from what we're seeing so far is the red at the bottom then.
And that's like this whole scene is like everybody's very muted colors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like even him, his colors are, you know, like dark browns and black, right? So, and then there is like, you know, the blood, but then also that tattoo really pops out
It
when
pops.
Yeah.
And then we see his eyes, like when his eyes really glow, and you know, all the red tying together too when it comes to his eyes as well, which we don't really see so much here yet. You just get a hint of it, but the blood on his face and everything.
And you know, something.
Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I would go on.
So something that I thought of when I saw his peony tattoo, which may be a Western mindset, is that, you know, at least in the West, flowers are associated with femininity and gentleness and beauty and life. And, you know, to have that symbol tattooed on him seems a little bit out of place and incongruous, because he's so violent and he's such a harbinger of death. So I don't know if that has the same association in Asian cultures. You know, it may not be associated with femininity.
I read that because guess who did the research? The librarian. Yeah. So I looked at peony symbolism in Chinese and Eastern culture, and it's bravery, honor, good fortune, power, and class. I also looked at koi fish symbolism too, but we can talk about that when we get there. But then even the title of the episode, Leather and Silk, like leather is ulan, silk is yua, I thought, which also kind of reminds me of shadow and light, which is the big theme that kind of runs through Lily's work. But yeah, the whole thing with the peony, we would think like femininity, flowers, you know, sweetness, love, but it's like bravery, honor, good fortune, power, and class, which I thought was really interesting.
It also says like, from a quick Google search, because I don't do that much stuff, you know, but it says King of Flowers, right? So maybe it's telling in, you know, that
foreshadowing. Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Like, yeah.
So then like the next part is these two guys who are like, hey, it wasn't us, it was, our leader who, started this attack on you. We're innocent. And then they kind of point to one of the carriages and they're like, if you want his head, he is hiding in that padlocked caravan. It's locked from the outside, but there's like the secret entrance that he'll use. So like, don't worry about us. Like, he's over there. Go get him, Tiger. I mean,
we're worms. Don't worry about the worms. Go get the big guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Waste your time trying to find that secret entrance.
Oh, exactly. Well, I think it's like their diversion. They're like, listen, he's going to be dealing with that. Then we can get the heck out of here.
Or they're trying to explain to him, like, why in the world would their leader be locked inside of a caravan?
Yeah, it like doesn't make sense. Even he's just like, what? This leader is hiding from, while his men are fighting for him? No. A good person or like a good warrior doesn't do that shit, right? And he like kind of goes into how he despises cowards, which kind of like foreshadowing stuff, maybe. I don't know, maybe. But
sorry.
Oh no, go on.
People. I love how she did his expression here with his eyes. Like he's like this. You can see him being like, really? What the hell? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not buying this. Just the way his eyes is just so expressive that he's like, all right, I'll investigate it, but I don't believe what you're telling me.
Oh yeah.
Also, like, I also don't think he believes them because, like, who would, right? Obviously, like, anyone would lie to save their life. But I think, he's pretending to believe them to give them a chance to run away. Like, he's not stupid. He knows they'll go.
Yeah.
He even says in like the next panel, he's like, wash your necks and get ready for my sword. Like, get some of that snow and rub it on there. Cause like, I'm going to kill you. It's just happening.
Yeah.
And I love this look. But yeah, I love this like scene of him like walking away and just seeing his back. It's like, it's still so ominous and like, love it.
Love it.
I'd say I have to say this is one panel that always sticks out in my mind when I think about this or when I read it. It's just that wash your neck. It just is chilling. It very, I would never want to say that to me.
Oh yeah, like even at the bottom there, it's like, fuck, I think I just crapped my pants. Already did that. Like, they're scared. So it is super chilling, and
big bad bandits.
I mean, how tall do you think he is? To me, he looks like he's like 6.5 feet tall, just as a guess. You know what I mean? And this is like this era, he's a flipping giant, right? So he's just this monstrously tall, strong warrior. And they're like, oh God, just let us go. We'll just scurry away.
Oh yeah.
And you see like the panel where he has his hand up there. It's from like, it's kind of from the two people's perspectives because it's from the bottom vantage point. So, I mean, I love Lily's artwork. And one thing that I remember reading on her Patreon this was from actually one of her earlier posts, was she was talking about how she was trying to kind of like move the artist's eye around, like, so, quote unquote, the camera. So you have different shots and in different angles, and it just really makes for like rich storytelling and, more interesting perspective. So it's nice to see that in play, and especially when it actually lends itself to the story like this, where it's presumably their perspective and like showing him looming over them. So it adds to like the emotional effect.
The visual language, like the cinematography, is brilliant. You can tell that she's really studied or pays attention, observes when it really reminds me of a lot of really famous directors and cinematographers, just the way she angles everything. So yeah, it's just super, super well done. And that's why it just flows like a little movie in our heads, right? Yeah.
I love how she does profiles too. In a lot of comics, profiles always look very awkward, especially when somebody's talking. They always try to
Yeah.
do sort of like that 3/4 profile, but she does such a great profile that looks so natural. I mean, yeah, she's really good at that stuff.
Yeah, I've seen some profiles and some that just kind of look like they're Jello people, kind of weird.
Yeah, it's almost like their full mouth is on the side of their face, but it's a profile.
Yeah.
Their whole mouth is here to show they're talking, and it just looks so weird. But
so like after he's like walking away, we've got the bandits who are like, you know, just whispering to each other where they're like, are you nuts? Our leader is long gone, right? And this like demon soldier is gonna like hunt us down and we're gonna be dead. And he's like, listen, this is giving us some time to escape. Like, let's get the fuck out of here. Like, we gotta go now. I would have slashed his guts out, but I would get slaughtered first, right?
Yeah,
So
okay.
Still trying to be like, to have some bravado. He's like, well, if I would have, I could have. Like, I really would have killed him, but like, whatever.
Exactly.
Come on, dude, just go.
he
But,
spared his life.
Yeah, and then they're just like how can this buy us time? Like, what's even in that caravan? And the other one, you know, informs him. He's like, it's a princess, a beautiful one. Like, he's gonna be busy with that shit, not with he doesn't care about us anymore. Okay.
Well, that does demonstrate, first of all, the second guy is clearly smarter. He's the one who thought of this excuse. The first guy is like, what are you talking about? He doesn't even recognize it as an excuse.
Mhm.
And he also has been asleep all day. So he's clearly not the most assiduous of the bunch.
Listen, being a bandit is tough, okay? We have to steal stuff and whatever the heck you do. Yeah. So the next panel is just very simple. He's walking over to the caravan. He sees the padlock and he goes, here I come, because he thinks that like the leader guy is in there.
By the way, the padlock is shaking. I think Yu was trying to get out.
Oh yeah, I didn't notice that.
I also just noticed it.
I feel like she's a bit of a spitfire, so she would be like trying to get out the whole time. But I'm surprised that like he couldn't hear, like she wasn't yelling or whatever. But but he grabs. Oh, sorry.
Like trying to be stealthy and sneak out while like the battle's away from her.
That's true. So then he, you know, grabs his sword. Here I come. Swoosh. He like breaks it. It snaps. One, you know, full swoop. He actually like breaks the door open. It's not just the padlock. He like rips this door apart. And that's when we get this scene of Yua, who is vastly different from all of the other parts that we have seen, because she's wearing like these pink tones compared to like these dark browns and like reds.
And she's also, I mean, the way that she's framed is just incredible. Like, she's framed against this purple background. It's kind of like stars, and she's
stars.
Yeah, she's depicted as extremely gorgeous. She has this startled look on her face, and she's scruffy, like she's, you know, she has some dirt all over her face and clothes, but she's gorgeous. And you know, a distinct contrast to the blood and gore and presumably the smell around us.
Yeah, she's like otherworldly, right? With like, when I thought that too when I saw this, I think I wrote in my notes, I was like, she looks like she's in a galaxy. She looks like stars, right? They're surrounding her, especially in the next panel when we get a little closer. And then nerd alert, here comes the nerd. So pink, I looked up pink, because yeah, it is shocking when all of a sudden you see this pastel palette. And pink, of course, is love, romance, caring, but also tenderness and calm. And then the koi are abundance, good fortune, perseverance, beauty, and strength. So it's like it's giving us hints to her place in the story, right? That she's the romantic interest, she's the love interest, but she's also something more than that. Yeah. So
also, I wanted to point out some character traits that I noticed through Ulan's breaking of the carriage door, like you said, the caravan door. So this is a man who, whether through upbringing or whether through his immediate experience with his battles, he does not have patience. He expects things to happen quickly and to get his way. and he doesn't mind destroying things to get them. So, you know, some people maybe who were raised poor, right? They appreciate the resources around them. They wouldn't needlessly break things, but either he has been raised wealthy and he doesn't care about objects, and he doesn't, you know, it's not something that like he would be deprived of if he broke one, or the stress and the experience of the battle the last couple of months, and especially the last days, has just pushed him to a point where he just doesn't care and he just needs to get stuff done fast.
Yeah, that's kind of where Aislene, it's just like he's exhausted, he's just burned out, he just is like he's past it, right? He just is like, let me just get this over with, get away from these bandits, get on with my life. So yeah. So it looks like we're on page 20. So yeah, here's 𝗬𝗂 looking stunning. She looks very ethereal, she looks very angelic. And she's wearing the beautiful rosy colors, you know. And of course, then we go to the next panel and he is gobsmacked. He's completely stunned. And this is when we get our first real full face of him. And I remember the first time I read this, I was like, when I first saw this panel of 𝗬𝗂, I was like, oh my God, I love this artist. This is so gorgeous. And I remember showing this to somebody at my work. I'm like, look at this. And then you scroll to him and you're like, hi. Hi, how are ya? But yeah, I mean, that's stunning, right? And then the pops, we were talking earlier about like the pops of red. So with the tattoo on his throat of the peony, and then his like ruby-like eyes. I don't know what his thing is on his chest. I was trying to look at it earlier. I'm like, is it, first I was like, oh, it's a snake. No, it's not a snake. I'm like, is it an octopus? I don't know. And I love how we're kind of looking at him through the back of her head, right? So we're seeing him from what she's seeing, because we see her fingers and we see her hair. So she's just as stunned as he is. But then of course she's sassy. So the next scene, she pops herself out of the caravan and tries to push him away to run, which doesn't really work. He grabs her and throws her down. And then he refers to himself as a wild dog, which, you know, don't you know, never run from a wild dog. So to me, that was interesting too. Like he sees like this wildness, this like feral quality in himself. And he'll just chase whatever he can if you run from him. So it'll get excited and chase you down harder. He's kind of pinning her down in the snow. Again, here we go with like the white, the death, the snow, but is the pink on the snow. And she's sassy, so she gives it right back to him. She's like, are you calling yourself a wild dog? And she's panting. And he looks very flirty here in the next panel. He's like something like that. And you can tell, I think, a lot from his eyes here that he thinks she's babe. You can tell he's trying to a little here.
I wanted to
go ahead.
The fact that he calls himself a wild dog, to me, it reminded me a lot of Tora and kind of his self-image.
Yeah,
we'll see a little bit throughout the cartoon, like throughout even Asura's Bride, we'll get to learn more about Ulan and his background. But the fact that he sees himself in that manner, and he's kind of like sunk so low in his own estimation as to call himself that to me shows, you know, it's, you know, it's not something that most people would consider laudatory. It's considered a negative thing to be a wild dog, but
yeah.
I feel like this is what he thinks of himself. Like this is who he's become, you know, whether he likes it or not, but this is who he is, which, you know, it's probably, well, we'll see more a little bit later about how he feels about it. But I thought it was interesting that he already identifies himself as that.
Yeah, it's like that whole feral thing. It's like, this is what life has made me. I'm not this cultured person. Don't make me hurt you. Don't make me chase you. But if you run, I will do this. Yeah, and it's that kind of self-loathing that's in there, deep in there, right? So he says, so you're the leader of the bandits. Tell me how many more of them are out there. I'm getting pretty sick of being ambushed by enemies. So that's kind of like a hint of what he's been dealing with for the last long while now.
Really thinks, do you think at this point he actually thinks she's the leader of the bandits?
No, I just think that's totally sarcastic. And he's like, oh, so you're the leader of the bandits, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And it's kind of like to kind of, I think he's also trying to pull her out, see what she says. And, you know, she's sassy. Well, there's an entire horde of bandits awaiting my return up ahead. And she's squirming and struggling like I'd probably be nailing them in the balls, let's be honest. So how about stop making more enemies and let go of me? And then he says, good idea. And he smells her.
Oh
So-
boy. God almighty.
Oh boy.
Wait, as we were discussing, let's hope she doesn't smell him back. But anyway.
Yeah, because you know what he smells like. But yeah, I said to my husband, I'm like, what is it with guys like wanting to smell our necks, wanting to smell our hair? And he's always, you smell good. And then he can see, but it's like, I'm really curious because I don't know, maybe it's just me. I don't walk around like snorting my husband's head. I just don't. So it's like this whole sensory thing. And I think, what is it, like pheromones? So he instantly, I know if we'll talk more, he's smelling something specific, but it's like this whole, like, when you find the person that you're really attracted to on like a chemical level, they smell amazing to you. And it's like pheromones. So he's known her for 30 seconds and he's already sniffing her. So.
That's funny. So I will say, neither my husband and I, we do not sniff each other. So I just, whenever I read in like romances, like, oh, he smelled her hair, and it's like, oh, your shampoo smells so good. Or like people say, oh, she smelled of like vanilla, cinnamon, and strawberries. I'm like, I do not relate because I don't think my sense of smell is very heightened. Like I just don't see the world that way. So
I'll be sitting and my husband will come up behind me and just put his nose on like the back of my head and just like.
You're making it sound unromantic. You have to make it sound like it's the most romantic thing in the world.
Together, this thing is too long.
Oh my God.
It's also a quality of a dog, right? He's sniffing.
Well, yeah.
Well, he did say he was a wild dog, right? So,
Mhm. Is it still me, or is it you know me?
But anyway, we do find out why he's actually sniffing her. It is actually for a purpose. And he tells her, let's be friends instead. And then you have this panel of her extremely shocked face and with a little sweat mark and her eyes wide open. And she's like, what? And it's super sexy this way. I mean, he's pinning her down by her hands. It's like a classic, male dominance kind of, trope thing. And then we have a zoom in of her lips, which is like, this is what he's seeing and what he's probably lusting after, her beautiful, delicate, dainty lips. And then he kisses her. So I forgot to mention in the beginning of the episode, but we're doing the uncensored version, the version that's not on Webtoons, the version that's on Patreon. And Lily took this off because there were people who felt this was not appropriate of Ulan. I'm like, okay, yes, he didn't ask her permission to kiss her, but he's also a murderer. So like, whatever, like, murderer / warrior. I guess you can't necessarily say murderer, but
yeah, like barbarian, like that's right. The whole era, like the Mongol era, right? So like,
right.
I mean, I personally don't mind this version, right? But I guess for some people, like that absence of consent can be an issue. So I can see why Lily took it off. But I mean, it's also pretty easily accessible to get it. So like, it's on Pinterest. If you don't know about it, you can find it, Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like you were saying, Teri, it's not like the 20th century, right? And he's a warrior. It's just a totally different time and culture. And I think like a lot of people don't like to admit it, but people are very attracted to this strong man who just does things to you. I mean, like what's the most popular book, for the past couple of years, 50 Shades of Grey, all about that. And I didn't read it, but it's a very common thing in women's stories. Like you have a strong man who like takes charge. So
yeah, it's the whole alpha male thing, and there's a whole ton of romance novels and stories out there. They're all based around like the alpha male, that dominates. Yeah, it's definitely a thing.
If you guys if you guys have never because so there is like this genre called Omegaverse, right? And if you guys and it ended up in like the Supreme Court and like, but what you need to do, because
I don't know about this Omegaverse. What is it?
Okay, so I mean, I'm not going to get too much into it, right? But if you want to learn more about like the Omegaverse and like the big controversy that was around it, I think the New York Times did an article about it. And then also Lindsay Ellis did a 2-parter article about this one particular person who was trying to sue people for about the genre. And it is absolutely wild. It's like Mean Girls, but writing about wolf sex.
Yeah, it's cool, like wolf sex, like alpha, omega, beta, yeah, and like,
but like
maybe
bad wolf science.
I would say don't Google this, but like nodding is a whole thing. Keep your prude cred, I guess. But yeah,
I don't think I would like this. I'm also curious as to how
out
this ended up
there.
in the Supreme Court, but okay.
Well, not like the Supreme Court, but like I think the Oklahoma Supreme Court or something. But like you have to watch this video. It's by Lindsay Ellis. It's on YouTube. There's a 2-parter. It's long, but it is a fucking trip. Like it's so good. So good.
It's amazing that it's such a huge genre now, and like I mean, so many Korean manhwa and like Japanese manga are all about Omegaverse, and it's just freaky and weird, but kind of fun.
Well, that's the thing. Like when that big story came out and people were like, oh yes, these people started the Omegaverse, you know, like genre or whatever, where I'm like here going, I was writing this shit circa 2004 with Inuyasha fan fiction, okay? It's been around way longer.
Yeah, it's been around for quite a while.
Yeah.
Well, it's really just the alpha male thing. I mean, oh my God, you can go back to like film noir, right? And like the detective books of that era that were written by men, and you know, you can just keep going back and looking at examples of alpha
the
men.
Maltese Falcon with Humphrey Bogart. I mean,
Yeah.
he smacks the
I
he
just
smacks
watched that
the female lead
days
like
ago.
a couple times, like, and it's just, oh well, okay, he just slaps her across the face. But it's considered like, you know, he's just so sexy in that movie and everything. It's just amazing. But
Well,
like the whole
he kisses her, right? I mean, yeah, because I just watched it the other night. Like he slaps her and kisses her.
exactly.
And we're supposed to be like, oh, if someone slapped me, oh dude, it'd be a rumble.
Yeah.
It also makes me think of that the whole 𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗏 thing, the guy standing with his hand on the wall, like over the woman, like really close. That's also a huge sort of that male dominant, you know, you're flat against the wall and he's leaning over you kind of thing.
It makes me think of the George Michael
𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗏 on the floor.
I think I've definitely said this before in the podcast. Like, my husband was like the sweetest of the sweetest pies. I'm like, okay, he's not that sweet, but he's very loud in many ways. But yeah, not at all an alpha male. And
yeah, no, I mean, I definitely love the tall, dark, and broody. And my husband's like tall, dark, and grumpy, but he's not. He's definitely not alpha, and he doesn't try to dominate. It's just he's a grumpy dude, and it makes me laugh because he's like Squidward, sort of. You know, Squidward and Plankton kind of mixed together, right? But yeah, it's a very fine line. Yeah, broody and asshole, broody versus asshole versus abusive dickhead. Yeah.
I realized one of the biggest, like,
in the moment with this comic, we've completely ruined the moment here.
Okay, back to the kiss. They're kissing. You know, Yua doesn't seem to mind it that much. She looks a little surprised, but she has her eyes wide open, but she doesn't, at least in the initial panel, she doesn't seem to be pushing him away at all. And he seems to be gentle with her. He has his hands on her face, and it seems like a quiet moment. It doesn't seem like it's like I'm ravishing you moment. I'm like pushing himself on her. It does seem like it's sweet and gentle. And you know, her hair is like, you know, flowing out there on the snow. So, you know, she just left the royal palace, so it doesn't make sense that she would be still looking pretty. But anyway,
on her face, she's still stunning.
Yes. And then you see, you know, a panel of just their mouths, and like she's like panting. So yeah, I think she enjoyed it. And they're still very, very close together. And he says, "I see 𝗙𝗏𝗄𝗏 wine. I thought I smelled something fragrant on you." So that's what he was smelling. And then he caresses her cheek. Like, oh my gosh, he literally just met her like 10 seconds ago, and he's already being all like affectionate. And he says, and he's huffing now. I think this is her huffing actually. So she's still panting. Like this is an intense kiss for her. Probably her first kiss.
Probably first, right? Yeah.
And he's like, so you're not a bandit after all. My apologies. I must have frightened you. And then, because he's a jerk, he says, want to go again?
Well, or I had to get it from somewhere in his family background, and here it is. Want to go again? That's such a Tora thing.
I know. Oh, my Lord. And then she slaps him. Good for her.
Good girl.
So she enjoyed it, but she's like, no, you can't do that. You got to ask me. But then we see her thoughts. And, the reason that she was so shocked is because she says, she thinks to herself, that's our royal ceremonial wine, a long-held family tradition of the royal family of Shan. How did he, and she's, like, this is something that's like a deep secret. So she's shocked that he knows about it. And she pretends that she doesn't. And she says, I don't know what you're talking about. My boys will arrive any moment now, so you better get off me. And like, it's an emphasis. So she's really like trying to intimidate him, which is, she doesn't have much to go against him, but we like her spirit that she is, trying to be defiant and to boss him around.
Oh, she straight up cuts him though in like the next panel, right?
So that's from her, right? The 2 scratches on his cheekbone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, she has this very indignant look on her face. And yeah, so he's, she managed to do some damage to him and add to his already damaged face. And he has this very like sly, sarcastic, like jokey look on his face. He's just still teasing her. He doesn't mind that she hit him because, he's probably used to that stuff already. And I think, when somebody likes you, like it's a form of attention, even if it's not positive attention, right? It's better than indifference. So I think that, he's enjoying it.
I got a reaction out of her, a good reaction.
Right, exactly. Someone like him probably enjoys that, right? I think he would enjoy it better than, oh my God, I love you, you're amazing.
Take me, Daddy. Sorry.
Right here in this caravan, door open or not.
Oh my God.
Days.
Okay, we can't be reminded of that. Thank goodness they get to a river later on, but like let's stop. Let's stop talking about that.
Just all that sweat and blood. Take me.
So a little bit of like TMI here.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So my husband generally showers in the morning, and then when he showers at night, I'm like, I know what you want, because I'm very insistent on that. So it's like when he showers at night, there's something he wants.
Oh. Bow, 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 bow.
Yeah. So Luana would not have a chance. Anyway.
Lucky babe.
Yeah. So he says, no, I'll tell you what it is. An extremely rare wine from the Shan kingdom, served only to the Shan princesses on their wedding day. And, she apparently is giving him a face because he says, don't look at me like that. Being a soldier comes with its perks, including wine sampling, which is just funny.
Smart.
Yeah, and he does obviously know his stuff. And then he gives her a face, which is like kind of semi-joking, but perhaps maybe even really serious. He says, sorry, your wedding plans were foiled. Do you think he's like actually sympathetic here?
No.
No.
Okay. Wow, you all have so little faith in him.
His brain has to like just going like zoom, right? His brain, and he's like, who is she? Can I steal her? I like her. I smooched her. Ooh, she's not getting married now because I'm going to go with her. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't, from like just this chapter, he just killed a bunch of dudes, broke open a caravan, grabbed her, kissed her, and now he's like flirting with her. And like we're at this point where we're like, what kind of guy is this?
Yep. And here he goes on and he's aggressive again, and they're standing up. Both of them are standing up now, but he's like, it seems like he's pulled her up, and he's grabbing her by the wrist, and he says, but you can drop the bandit act now because you're coming with me, Your Highness, Princess of Shan. So he's like, cut the crap. I'm done flirting. You're coming with me. You're not a bandit. I know exactly who you are. And, this is like a power move. He pulls her up and he tells her that he knows who she is. And that's how we end this episode.
Well, I also wonder too, because she's got the koi wrapped around the bottom of her dress, right? Forgive me if this is revealed later in the series, but is that like a symbol of the House of Shan or something? So he's like, you're wearing this, right? These colors, the symbolism, I know exactly who you are. I mean, I don't know which of the princesses you are, but I know you're one of them.
Well, I'm wondering, I mean, presumably it's kind of like common. No, because it was just yesterday that the advisor said that let's let them get married. But theoretically, other people would have speculated that the kingdoms, would marry their daughter off in order to gain that alliance. So even if it was only suggested yesterday, presumably they, other people would guess that this is what's going on. People who are involved in politics and aware of those things. So what are your thoughts on this episode? What do we learn about Yuan and Ulan? Their beginning of their relationship.
A little rocky there.
Well, we know that she's not a wilting flower, right? Think about like she's been kidnapped by bandits, and now this guy shows up, and I'm sure she saw the bodies in the snow and must know he's the one responsible for it. But she still gives him a lot of sass and fights back and slaps him. And so she's showing a lot of her character too, that she's a strong woman in an age where strong women weren't necessarily greatly appreciated, right? So that's a lot of her character that we're seeing there too. And then letting those two lowly worms, the bandits, run off is also showing part of his character as well, right? He's not just going to slaughter everybody for the sake of slaughtering everybody. So it's like a mixed bag so far, but definitely fireworks and sparks aplenty flying through here.
One thing I wanted to mention was there's a floral motif also on her dress, and it's hard to tell whether it's plum blossoms or cherry blossoms. It could be it could be either one. They kind of look more like cherry, but I know that those symbolize, like spring, but plum blossoms specifically, they start in the winter and go through into the spring. So they represent resilience, strength, withstanding. So I don't know. And I don't know if Lily's ever said anything about which blossom it is. And cherry blossoms also kind of represent life into death. Because they're so fleeting, they bloom and they're gone, but they're so beautiful. So I think that's an interesting aspect too with the cherry blossoms and the koi fish.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
Well, I know in the first episode they mentioned how she's the fourth princess. And I don't know, Mindy, if you guys talked about this yet.
Probably not to the extent you did. So let's probably not to the extent of research you did. So let's hear.
Well, no, I mean, I Googled like symbolism of the number 4 in Eastern culture, and the number 4 is unlucky. So she's the fourth princess. She would be the unlucky princess, right? So all of this happening to her, even though it's going to take her on a journey that becomes something amazing in her life, it's not very lucky at first that this happens. She goes to get married, the bandits kidnap her, and it's her sister or whomever's the first princess's wedding, but she's not there, so now it's hers, and then she gets kidnapped, and then she gets kidnapped again. So the unlucky princess, the fourth princess.
Okay, so we discussed a little bit about how she must feel like being the fourth princess in the last episode. So in deference to Aislene needs to go, let's wrap this up, but I'm gonna stop the recording, but I do want to do a few minutes of some questions for the extra Patreon content. So thank you so much, and I'm gonna stop recording, and then we'll start recording again.